If you look at the map of the United States today, you might think that New York is simply a large city on the East Coast. But if you look at the world, you will see that New York is in fact a global center where trade, culture, and ideas converge. From the Statue of Liberty rising above the harbor to the skyscrapers of Manhattan, the city has become a symbol of freedom, diversity, and economic power. At its height in the 20th century, New York was humanity's first megacity, with more than 10 million residents and an influence felt across the globe. But how did a small island that once began as a modest Dutch colony transform into one of the most dynamic and powerful cities in the world? This is the history of New York. Pre-colonial era and Dutch settlement. Before Europeans arrived, the area that would become New York was home to the Lenape people, numbering about 5,000 in the early 16th century. In 1524, the Italian explorer Giovanni da Verrazzano, sailing under the French crown, explored New York Harbor and named the area New Angoulême, in honor of King Francis I of France. In the early 17th century, the Dutch became the first Europeans to establish a settlement here. In 1614, they founded a fur trading post at the southern tip of Manhattan and soon developed it into a settlement called New Amsterdam. In 1626, the Dutch governor Peter Minuit purchased Manhattan Island from the Lenape in exchange for goods valued at 60 guilders, a transaction later mythologized as the $24 in beads story. In 1664, the English seized the settlement without bloodshed and renamed it New York in honor of the Duke of York, later King James II. During the Second Anglo-Dutch War, the Dutch briefly regained control in 1673, renaming it New Orange. But by 1674, it was permanently in English hands. Rapid colonial expansion devastated native communities, and the Lenape population dwindled to only a few hundred by 1700. English colonial period and the American Revolution. Under English rule, New York thrived as a major commercial port and became a hub of political and social activity. In 1735, the trial of printer John Peter Zenger established an early precedent for freedom of the press. In 1754, King's College was founded under King George II. In 1765, the Stamp Act Congress convened in New York, bringing together colonial representatives to resist British taxation policies. During the American Revolutionary War, New York was the site of some of the conflict's most critical battles. After the American defeat at the Battle of Fort Washington in 1776, the British occupied New York City and used it as their main headquarters in North America for the remainder of the war. The city remained under British control until 1783, when they evacuated following the Treaty of Paris. Soon after independence, New York was chosen as the first national capital of the United States from 1785 to 1790. In April 1789, George Washington took the oath of office as the first president of the United States at Federal Hall on Wall Street. The first U.S. Congress also met in the city, drafting and passing the Bill of Rights. By 1790, New York had surpassed Philadelphia to become the most populous city in the United States. The 19th century, immigration and industrialization. The 19th century brought immense change as immigration surged and industrialization reshaped the city. In 1811, the Commissioner's Plan laid out Manhattan's grid system, shaping its modern urban structure. The completion of the Erie Canal in 1825 connected New York Harbor to the Great Lakes, transforming the city into the gateway between the Atlantic Ocean and North America's interior. Millions of immigrants arrived, especially Irish fleeing the Great Famine and Germans seeking opportunity. By 1860, over 200,000 Irish immigrants lived in the city, a quarter of the population. The political machine Tammany Hall, fueled by Irish support, dominated city politics for decades. New York was also a center of reform. In 1827, slavery was officially abolished in the state, and the city became a hub for the abolitionist movement. By 1840, its free black population numbered over 16,000. Meanwhile, urban development included landmark projects like Central Park, begun in the 1850s and opened in 1859 as the first landscaped public park in America. The Civil War brought turmoil. In 1863, the draft riots erupted in violent opposition to conscription, leaving hundreds dead and marking one of the bloodiest episodes in U.S. urban history. Yet New York continued to grow. In 1886, the Statue of Liberty was unveiled in New York Harbor, instantly becoming a symbol of freedom and hope for millions of immigrants arriving at Ellis Island. In 1898, the modern city of New York was created through the consolidation of Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island, establishing the 5 boroughs. The city's expansion was further fueled by the opening of the subway system in 1904. The 20th century, from crisis to global leadership. In the early 20th century, New York rose as a powerhouse of industry, commerce, and culture. Tragedy struck in 1904 when the steamboat General Slocum caught fire, killing over 1,000 people. In 1911, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire killed 146 workers and spurred major reforms in labor rights and workplace safety. The 1920s were a golden age. Harlem became the center of the Harlem Renaissance, and the city's skyline transformed with iconic skyscrapers. By the early 1930s, New York was the world's first megacity, with over 10 million residents. Yet the Great Depression devastated the economy. Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia, elected in 1934, reformed city governance, fought corruption, and expanded social programs to rebuild confidence. During and after World War II, New York solidified its status as the unofficial capital of the world. In 1950, the United Nations headquarters opened along the East River, cementing its role in global diplomacy. Wall Street became the financial center of the world, while the city's art scene, especially the abstract expressionist movement, made New York the cultural capital of the post-war era. The second half of the century brought challenges. Deindustrialization, fiscal crisis, rising crime, and racial tensions in the 1960s and 1970s pushed the city to the brink, with near bankruptcy in 1975 and widespread urban decline. However, New York rebounded in the 1980s and 1990s as finance, real estate, and technology boomed. Crime rates plummeted, and the city once again became a global magnet for immigrants, artists, and entrepreneurs. The 21st century, crisis, recovery, and global role. The dawn of the 21st century brought both tragedy and renewal for New York. On September 11, 2001, the city endured the deadliest terrorist attack in American history when the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center collapsed, taking nearly 3,000 lives. The devastation left deep wounds but also inspired extraordinary resilience. In the years that followed, Lower Manhattan was rebuilt, crowned by the soaring One World Trade Center and the solemn 9/11 Memorial, both standing as enduring symbols of remembrance and strength. In 2008, New York faced another trial as the collapse of Lehman Brothers triggered a global financial crisis. Wall Street, the heartbeat of the world economy, was shaken, and thousands lost their jobs. Yet, even amid turmoil, the city adapted. New industries grew alongside finance, and by the following decade, New York had re-emerged with a more diverse economy, including a thriving technology sector often called Silicon Alley. The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 once again placed New York at the center of global attention. For weeks, the city was the epicenter of the crisis, with empty streets, shuttered theaters, and overwhelmed hospitals. Tens of thousands lost their lives, and the economy suffered its sharpest decline in generations. Yet, as before, New Yorkers rallied together. Communities supported one another, and in time, the city reopened, regaining its vibrancy and reaffirming its reputation for resilience. Today, New York remains a global hub of finance, culture, and diplomacy. Broadway continues to define world theater. The United Nations headquarters makes the city a stage for international politics, and its unmatched diversity, with millions of immigrants and hundreds of languages, sustains its energy and creativity. From a modest colonial outpost on the edge of a river to the world's first megacity, New York's history has been one of constant reinvention. It has endured war, depression, disaster, and disease, only to emerge stronger each time. Above all, New York stands as a living symbol of freedom and opportunity, a place where people of every background have come seeking a better life. Its skyline tells the story of ambition, its streets echo with diversity, and its spirit reflects the enduring human drive to overcome.